Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this world. We're here in another edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm an epic marathon swimmer and the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. I'd also had the pleasure of swimming in a number of events that Rob and Dylan Kent have ensnared into the wonderful world of the Global Swim Series. Rob, why don't you introduce yourself, give a little bit of the background of English Channel training and the creation of L.O.S.T. Bring Dylan into the conversation. I understand as a 9-year-old, you forced him to kayak for every one of your training sessions. So I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here, Ned. Thanks. Sure. Where to start? It depends how far back you want to go. But I was a competitive swimmer way back when, and Olympic trials and stuff like that in '88, and then got into open water swimming after a burnout period of not swimming for 17 years. What better way to jump in than not do it gradually? And just decided one day, hey, you know what would be cool is to swim the English Channel. Except this was back in 2006 when there was nobody swimming in where we live here in Toronto on the shores of Lake Ontario, which is like the 11th largest lake in the world. And the weird thing is it has a long, long history of fabled open water swimming. But at that point in time, there was nobody swimming in Lake Ontario. I've lived in Oakville here, just outside of Toronto for 30 something years now. And I'd never seen anybody swim in Lake Ontario. But it seemed like a good place to train for open water swimming for the English Channel. So what the hell, I just jumped in and started swimming, and it was cold like the English Channel and rough. And we did that. And Dylan, so this goes back about 15 years now. So he was about 15 years old, and he would paddle beside me in the kayak and everything. And that's how both of us started in this. And he ended up being my crew and being the guy that he and Neil Streeter saved my life when I got about 4K from France, and things weren't going quite as well as expected. And they pulled me out, which I don't even remember. But the upside of all this was that it got me back into swimming. And the following summer, I had despite not making it across the channel, I still had fun swimming in Lake Ontario. So we kept swimming in Lake Ontario. And after years and years of marathon running and Ironman and all that, I had a bunch of running buddies who were really lousy swimmers. So they were good guys to swim with because they made me look fast. So 6 or 8 of us would go down on Saturday mornings and go swimming, and it kind of grew. Long story short, here we are 15 years later, and it grew from just myself to now over 250 paid members every Saturday morning, and we cutely named it the Lake Ontario Swim Team, which the acronym, of course, is L.O.S.T. So it's Lost Swimming, and that's how that got going.
So listen, there are swimmers in Iowa right now. There are swimmers in West Texas. There are swimmers in different countries who can't see any open water swimmers. To take just a second, what are the 5 or 6 things you did 15 years ago to help get this thing going? Was it finding the second swimmer? Was it having coffee at the end of it? Was it the first road trip? What were the key elements? Because somebody somewhere is going to build a program based on what you've got to say right now.
Yeah,
no pressure.
Well, there's a couple of key things. One was just that we did it every Saturday morning at 8, period. And so consistency was a big one, that everybody knew that it would always be on. And everybody asked me, oh, it's going to be really windy. It's going to be really cold. It's going to be all this. It's foggy, and are you going to cancel it? And I get these emails. I'm like, no, I'm not freaking canceling. And so in 15 years, your random sampling of Saturday mornings, you're going to get some crappy weather. In 15 years, we've never canceled a swim. We had one where we had lightning, and we got out early, but it's never been canceled. So the thing was, and this is a bit of Tom Sawyer and getting people to paint my fence, is I would go down there and say, hey, guess what? We get to practice rough water swimming today. And hey, guess what? We get to practice cold water swimming today. And hey, we get to do a long swim today because it's flat as glass. And it turned lemons into lemonade, and that's what open water swimming is all about. But probably the main thing about it is, other than consistency and people knowing about it and everything, is making it fun. And that's my whole philosophy, is to, we could have made it very exclusive, that only very fast swimmers, and we have some great swimmers, some Olympians that come out with us, and some great marathon swimmers, ultra marathon swimmers, and a couple of world champion guys. Greg Streppel has come out and swum with us, and Luis Escobar and all this. And that isn't the road that we wanted to go down. My whole thing for my entire sporting career, or if you would call it that, is to be inclusive. And we just made it so if you can safely swim, and the benchmark I use, 500 meters in open water. I don't care at all how fast you are. If you can safely swim 500 meters, then come and join us. And we get the little old ladies that swim breaststroke up and down the lengths at the Y that come out. Hey, that's great. Love to have you. And then we get literally Olympians and everything. And hey, that's great. Love to have you. And the cool thing was, part of it was happenstance that I established L.O.S.T when it was new and novel in open water swimming. It wasn't as big as it is today. So it was kind of the same as you and the Cork guys, and there's other places like that around the world. So that helped. But we had, it just grew like crazy. And we have, on Saturday mornings, people that drive, I don't know, as much as 100 kilometers to come and swim with us. We've had guys drive from Pennsylvania and Virginia on Saturday mornings when they were training for something. They would drive up from friggin' Virginia to here, and that's like an 8-hour drive. And I'm going, you're crazy. Why would you come and swim with us? But it was because we're a fun group to come and swim with. There's a million other lakes that are closer where they are, but this was a good one to come and swim with. So making it fun, making it consistent, going out for coffee after, and just embedding the right culture is everything. That's my long answer.
And I presume if somebody showed up that was a reasonably competent swimmer and put on neoprene booties and a neoprene cap and an inline snorkel, you'd still say hello to them.
Absolutely. See, and you and I have had this conversation before too about purists, and where again, you can make it exclusive or inclusive. And there are different clubs, races, everything around the world that believe that you shouldn't wear a wetsuit, that's for wimps. And the kind of cool thing is I was a competitive pool swimmer. I was an Ironman. I was a marathon swimmer. I was, I've done all different areas, so I'm equally biased. But quite frankly, I don't care. Just come out, have fun, swim with us. If you want to put on we'll give you a hard time about it, but put on the neoprene booties and the neoprene cap and all that. I don't care. Come out and have fun. And quite frankly, like you get a lot of the purists in marathon swimming that think that neoprene is for wimps and everything. And you can make that argument. But on the other hand, if there was no such thing as wetsuits, prior to 30, 40 years ago, we'd have about 8 or 10 guys in L.O.S.T swimming. you know, a lot of people that started with wetsuits then shed them and get into it, and now don't use them at all. And we have guys that swim literally year round in Toronto when it's minus 25 Celsius. But anyway, that's my answer on that.
I often say to people, I don't care if the person next to me has one of those fans. If the speed is similar and the competition's on, I don't care. It could be a dolphin with one bag flipper. It's, you know, if it's a competition. Tell us about the Global Swim Series. Why, how you got started, and the incredible number of events and you know, kind of all over the world. Like, just give us some of the background, and you probably should introduce Dylan at some point, because I understand he did all the work.
Yeah, he's just the brains to the operation. All these things kind of came about organically, and then we grew them. Lost, as I said, just kind of came organically, and then so did Global Swim Series. We started with the Lost race, and at that point, well, the Lost race, we always like to joke, is the first year there was 8 of us, and 5 of them were in my family, including Dylan. So, and now we get a few hundred people out. And after a few years, Dylan and I had this idea, you know what would be cool? Because I knew a few people around the world that ran open water races, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to set up a little series. So we set up a little series. And initially it was just in Canada, and then the next year I said, well, I know guys around the world, it's no harder to include races around the world. So we went from 12 races the first year to now we're 5 years into it and over 200 races. And in 38 countries and over 100,000 participants. And now, having said all that, it's a boatload of work. And Dylan and I do all that, and that's where Dylan's brains comes into it. He's the spreadsheet guy that created all the ranking system, and there's a lot of work to do all that. But again, the purpose of it, as you mentioned, purpose is exactly goes back to Lost Swimming, to be inclusive, to grow the sport, to get more people into this, because it's a great friggin' sport, and it's just fun to get out there and swim in open water. I always say, one of my favorite sayings is, open water swimming is to pool swimming what trail running is to treadmill running. Like, I have a treadmill in my basement, and we do master swimming, and they're an evil necessity. But hey, if I had my druthers, I would be out open water swimming all the time, and I would always be trail running. And I've done 40 something marathons and ultras, but those are all road races. But I would much rather go trail running, and it's just so beautiful to get out there and experience all that. So if we can be inclusive and get more people into it, that's what we're all about. And that was the basis of Lost. That's the basis of Global Swim Series too.
Give us some of the more unusual swims, some of the countries that certainly Americans have never heard of. Just give us a smattering of the unusual in the Global Swim Series.
Because I'm hogging all this, I'm gonna pass that over to Dylan, because he knows as many of these as I do.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, so it's one of the cool things about Global Swim Series, just kind of selfishly on our hand, has been learning about all these races in, you know, pockets of the world that you barely even knew of, or, you know, definitely didn't think that open water swimming was as big there. Northern Ireland's been an area that's been huge for getting into Global Swim Series. Serbia and Bosnia and Croatia have a ton of open water races, which again, it's not, and I'm probably not alone in thinking this, but was not top of my mind in open water hot spots around the world. And then you get just not necessarily hot spots, but just areas and pockets that have a really unique open water swim. So there was one last year, I think it was actually the first year that they put it on in Honduras, and a very kind of local race there, and it went well. I don't think they had a ton of people, maybe kind of 30, 40 people. But they got back to us afterwards and said, and shared with us this video clip that they had where this pod of dolphins came up beside it. And it's, you know, it's that beautiful Caribbean water too. And there's this pod of dolphins swimming with the swimmers for like pretty much the entire loop that they're doing. And so we put that up, and I think that's been one of the strengths of GSS, is just, it's a way to find out about these swims and learn more about them and plan your next, you know, swim vacation. And we were getting more emails about that swim than probably any other swim after that video clip went up. So it's been pretty cool to both learn about swims in kind of cool areas of the world, and then also get to share them with other people as well.
To jump on there a little bit, the cool thing, like as Dylan just it kind of tweaking to it, is the variety of swims out there. Like we put up pictures. We go and do a few of these races. I'd love to do all of them, but we go and do a few of them. And like we did one, we've done it the last 3 years, which was the GSS Global Championship race in Cancun, El Cruce, which is a 10K swim from Cancun to Isla Mujeres. And they get over 1,000 swimmers to swim 10K, and everybody swims with those tow buoys behind them for safety's sake and everything. But you know, I put that up and I just look at that myself and I go, wow, that is so cool. But then you see comments from people and they're going, yeah, that's my nightmare. I would never want to do that race. And you go, oh yeah, I guess so. Like maybe that's not your thing. It was mine. But then, like Dylan said, maybe this real exotic one in Honduras that's quiet, there's like 30, 40 people in it. There's going to be more now. But maybe that's your thing. Or there's ones in Sweden, the Vansboro swim, that has 14,000 people in it. And like, how cool would that be? But maybe that's not your thing either. Maybe you'd rather go and do one in Morocco that is a 5-day swim through the Sahara Desert. And it's a whole camp and everything. And that's the beauty of this. And part of when Dylan and I set this up was to not make it like a FINA race. We deliberately did not want to make all these races uniform, that it had to be 1K, 5K, 10K, that had to be 3 loops and blah, blah, blah. And no. The whole beauty of this is they're all very unstandardized. And yet then we had to figure out a way to come up with a formula so that you could fairly calculate points and everything for the global ranking. So we did that. But yeah, the beauty of all this is how different and unique each one of these races are. And I love it, the fact that you can't say, well, the bigger one's obviously the best one. No, only if you like the bigger and bigger one, or the really competitive one. Well, there's lots of people out there that don't like that. And so we just let people run with whatever. As long as the races are safe, then we're happy to have them in the GSS.
So I got reasonably close to one of your swims last summer. I did a 17K Irish championship in Loch Earn. First time in my life I was attacked by a swan, which is something. And I met a guy that I knew from the old days named Francie McAlden. And he didn't have an Ironman tattoo on his calf. He had the Global Swim Series tattoo on his calf, as he had been a champion. And so my question to you is, are you now inspiring, have you now licensed these tattoos? And I'm going to start to see these like I see the Ironman tattoos all over the world.
It's funny you say that, because I did not know that. I'm going to say that Francie is the first guy to ever get a GSS tattoo. Funny thing is, I had thought of doing it because I actually have the Ironman tattoo that back in the day, you got a little one just above your ankle. And then I got Boston Marathon and Manhattan Island Marathon swim and my Lake Ontario crossing, and ended up with a few of them up my calf and everything. And I've actually thought of getting a GSS one, but was kind of too chicken to do it. Not because I won the GSS, but because it means something to me. And that's what all these tattoos on my leg, why I got them. So having said that, pretty cool that Francie did that, and I'm very flattered that he did that. But love to see it. That's
yeah.
really
He's got to
cool.
send us a picture.
So Dylan, your dad with 4 tattoos up the side of his leg, is that like a lot of street cred, or you just cringe?
It's street cred until he starts talking, and then it's embarrassing dad again.
Rob, talk to us about the swim team in Toronto, the ISL.
Yeah. So again, all this kind of
Assuming, by the way, that no one knows what ISL stands for. Take
Right.
it from that standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, again, all this grew organically from L.O.S.T to GSS and now to the ISL, which is the International Swimming League. The International Swimming League is 1 year old, and it is the professional swim league, the first professional swim league in the world, and was founded by a very wealthy European businessman. And we met with him when we were talking. Dylan and I did a road trip through Rome, Paris, Cairo, and the Red Sea last fall, and met with Constantine, who's the founder and owner of ISL. And shortly after this meeting, he surprised me and said, "Hey, we're expanding from the 8 cities that are teams in the ISL. We're adding Tokyo, and we want to add Toronto. And would you like to be the general manager of it?" So I said, "Hell yes." I had been an investment banker for 25 years and quit the next day. I always loved what I did, and I was a trader and everything for a lot of years. And at that point, I was the treasurer of the bank and everything. But when you put it up against getting involved full-time running the professional swim team here, there's no comparison. So I jumped on that immediately, and about 10 minutes later, I asked Dylan to be my assistant GM. So we both have this background, and it works really well. And so we went out, and we're just in the process of signing some of the best swimmers in the world. It's really mind-blowing to go from, being big fans of all these literally the best swimmers in the world to going out and saying, "Hey, would you like to be part of the team?" And they're all flattered about being part of this ISL team. So it's a pretty cool experience. And now we're just going into the second season, and very excited about that.
I'm just picturing the 2 pictures side by side, right? The first 8 world-class swimmers you signed to ISL, all buff and bronzed and, muscles bulging, next to the first 8 swimmers in the L.O.S.T swim. The Dream Team A and the Dream Team B.
That's right.
Can you give us some of these famous names, or is it still not quite there yet?
Well, the funny thing is, we have signed 30 swimmers, which is the team for this year. And no, I can't tell you.
Okay.
We announced 5 of them, and then headquarters said, "Okay, hold off on making further announcements till because of COVID and everything, there's been a bunch of changes to the season and everything." So they wanted to do that. But I think beginning of June, we're going to make the announcements. But we have 11 different swimmers from 11 different countries on our team. We have a dozen or so Canadians, including world record holder Kylie Mass. She's one that we did announce. We have, it's so cool, like to look at the bios of all these swimmers. We have world record holders and former world record holders and Olympic gold medalists and
future world record holders.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
and we're saving that 31st spot just for you in case someone's injured or anything.
Well, yeah. So about 5 years ago, the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame did something a little unusual. We changed our rules, and we barred performance-enhancing drugs, and we did it with teeth to it. We removed one honoree who had previously failed a WADA test. We do not allow nominations from people who failed a WADA test and not been overturned on appeal. And we went one step further to say, and oh, by the way, if they test the sample 25 years from now, you're gone. And if you compete in any other aquatics discipline when you're 75 years old, underwater hockey or whatever it might be, and you fail a drug test, you're gone. And we were kind of all alone at the time. The Russians were having their fun, WADA was having their fun. And tell us what ISL has done with a drug policy.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think the world has changed very significantly since, if you go back to the 1990s or so, well, obviously since like the East Germans and everything in the 80s, and then in the 90s, you can even go into baseball when there was the, steroid era and all that. And the world is, and even Lance Armstrong and all that, where it was okay if you got away with it. And, you can look the other way. And the public sentiment, and like you say, 5 years ago, you guys made that. And even 5 years ago, it was kind of, that's kind of pushing the boundaries because, it's not necessarily that bad a thing. And well, public opinion has changed. And from things like the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame changing rules, and now ISL starting from scratch. Well, when you're starting from scratch, you can make your own rules. And with the power that the ISL has, they took advantage of it and said, zero tolerance. If you, same kind of thing as what you just described. If you've ever tested positive, you're out. No appeal. Like, you're just out. We don't even want to have a whiff of that. There's zero tolerance for it. So don't care. Even on appeal, whatever, there's no tolerance for that. Anybody that's tested positive, like as I was saying, Dylan and I have been talking to some of the greatest swimmers around the world, emailing them back and forth, and they email us to say, hey, do you got a spot on the team? And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And I've had guys that have emailed me and they have had positive tests in the past. And I just said no. And they're still great, fast swimmers and everything. Nope. I'm not even coming back to you on it. Zero tolerance. So it's pretty cool to be able to start a league and have that kind of integrity.
And hopefully the rest of the sport will follow.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, the public opinion has changed dramatically over the years. And as public opinion changes over the years, so does organizational opinion and organizational rules. And with two organizations like this that have a fair bit of clout, it's got to change things.
Dylan, how many races do I have to go to as a reasonably quick 62-year-old to have a shot at being your global champion?
It's funny because it seems like it just ticks up every year, and part of it is just people getting that kind of competitiveness with each other. We had a pretty fun competition this year to watch in GSS with the male wetsuit division, where I think the male who won, Jordan Leckie from Ireland, did 19 races in a year. And it wasn't like he did 19 and then the next one was 4. It was, 17, 17, 17, 16. And they were all guys traveling around. Like one of the other, I forget what position he placed, but in the top 5 there was a guy from Canada who had done races in Canada, the US, France, Morocco. I think he went to Ireland as well. So he'd been all over. A couple of the Irish guys had traveled extensively through Europe. In a past year, we had the guy who won it traveled to Mexico on the last weekend to do a race just to get some extra points. So it's pretty cool. And I think it's really cool as well, too, to kind of follow along and see, obviously these guys are competitive and see the other people's names on the rankings. But it's pretty neat when they'll go to a race and they'll meet up with each other. And now a lot of them are buddies with each other, which is kind of cool because, had it not been for GSS, those people never would have met each other. And I think that's, when you think about all kind of the hours that go into this, and what's the point? That's kind of a pretty cool feeling to have been able to create experiences like that for people.
I remember about 10 years ago, we had a husband and wife that were in the Lee swim in Cork, Ireland. And I was talking to him afterwards. I said something like, it's really fabulous you've been able to kind of squeeze this into your vacation, your holiday. And they said, no, you don't understand. They said, we built our 1 week holiday around this. We wanted to come do this swim. So then we said, a week in Ireland, they're from somewhere in the United States. A week in Ireland sounds great. And they built the entire vacation around the one swim. And I just kind of walked away amazed. And over the next few years, more and more and more people end up with these kind of themed vacations, themed holidays, where they say, look, let's go to France and then down to Italy. We can get in 2 or 3 of these swims, and there's some nice vineyards, and there's some restaurants along the way. And we always wanted to see Pompeii. And so it's going to become more and more popular, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're seeing that more and more. And the nice thing about open water swims, even if it's a long one, even if it's a 10K, which most people are going for something shorter than that, but that's a 2-hour race. You compare that to an Ironman or even a marathon where you can't walk the next day, and you don't want to be walking around seeing the sights. Like, it's a very small part of your it's a very cool experience doing a race in a unique location, but it's it's not something where it takes up the entire trip and consumes the whole trip. So you can sell it to the family pretty well. We found where it's, come down, watch, mom and or dad do an open water swim. You can bring the kids, you can make a vacation out of it. And we've kind of, in a way, pivoted our marketing a little bit to that as well, to encourage people to travel and do these trips, because we're seeing people do more and more, and people, do one and go, okay, I wonder where else in the world I could do this, and are kind of hungry to find out. So we've sort of been telling a lot of race directors that can be a great way to market your race, not necessarily just the race itself, but what else is in the area? What else can they do after the swim? Okay, the race is at 8 in the morning, and then they're done at 10. What are they doing for the rest of the day? Where can they go after? And you can bring in a lot more swimmers that way, we found.
Well, listen, guys, thank you very much for the time. We will watch the Toronto team with interest in the ISL as the COVID disappears, hopefully, and all the best in continuing to expand GSS. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a lot, Ned.